say this, but let me repeat it again. The Constitution itself is weak in words and in action. It is weak in words because it lacks a moral authority. The Constitution we have today starts by the first three words, we the people, but it is false because we the people did not make that Constitution. That Constitution is a decree of a military government. So perhaps you're building on lies that lose moral value. The other thing is that the Constitution was not built thinking of the issues we're dealing with today. You see, if we sat with what we've gone through, with what you celebrate as the 26 years of evolution, which I disagree with, if we took it, okay, now that we're from our 26 years, not of evolution, but of experience, let us sit down and do a new constitution. You know, what's going to happen is that we're going to know that, okay, state government might want to walk over local government. So let us make it clear in that constitution that they are not allowed to question. What if something happens? Then we put the answer there. We're going to be very clear that this is a federation, so therefore states should be truly independent and autonomous of the federal government. So we're going to put it there. You know, there are things, for example, the other issue you're talking about, which I'm sure you're keen on, is the defection of people from one political party to the other. That again is a lack foundation. The idea that it really doesn't matter. Why do people leave one party and go to the other party? Because they got into politics not to serve, but to acquire power, acquire fame, and acquire wealth. So, and the way to acquire it is by being in government, especially power and wealth. If you're not in power, if you're not in government, you're in opposition. In a system like ours, it is easy to be tired of being in opposition because you don't get anything.
Ayo.
Well, thank you, Kayla. I think that's sufficient background to the conversation I'm having right now with our guest in the studio. Because if we look at it from godfatherism and vote buying to the rise of new ideological movements, the dynamics of our democracy, they demand closer scrutiny. So right now we have with us a political analyst, public policy expert, director of the Center for International Advanced and Professional Studies. He is also Jean Monnet professor. Okay, thank you so much for joining us this morning, Professor Anthony Kayla.
Good to be here.
You've been definitely following the political evolution. Is the way I like to look at it.
Trajectory, more than evolution.
Well, are we not evolving?
No, it's a trajectory. But go ahead.
I mean, let's begin from there. Are we not evolving? I mean, this is the 26th year.
Well, I mean, the time has gone on, and I want our viewers to think about it. Whether you're a student, a trader, or religious person, whatever we do with your time will go. So the fact that we've been in 26 years does not mean it's an evolution per se. You know, if you were an evolution, everything will be improving. That's the whole point of evolution. You'll be going from the very basic to more sophisticated level. We are having ups and downs, and I think the right expression would be trajectory rather than evolution. What you call the background to our conversation is a proof that is not an evolution, but a trajectory. But I'll let you go into the details.
No, I mean, because at least that understanding helps someone else to know that, in fact, because what I would have expected, okay, at least we're maybe some kind of shape shifting, you know, excuse me, from one thing to the other. What do you think, what can you say is keeping us seemingly where we are, just following the routine? Is it the style of government? Is it the type of democracy we're practicing? Or is it the people?
Well, I think it's a bit of everything, but overall, it's a weak foundation that is causing it. The weak foundation make it so that we call ourselves a federal republic, and we do not act as a federal republic, partly because we do not take deep cognizance of what it means to say federal republic. It's a bit of, you know, like people say, I love you, not knowing the deep meaning of that expression, of what it contains. Because if I love you, it means I'm going to be committed to you. It means I'm quasi, quote unquote, obsessed with you. It means you are the one that matters most in my life. So we use expressions in Nigeria where we don't really mean them because we just use them, perhaps because we don't understand them, but sometimes because it's not convenient to commit to them. If you're a federal republic, the first thing, allow me to say, is that if it's a republic, the first thing is that religion will not matter in a republic. It will also mean, for example, that calling the president or the governor your father will not be in a republic. Because it's a republic, it's going to be something of equals. If we want to call it something else, let's feel free. If we want to do babaism, let's be free to call it whatever we want, but let's be factual at least. If you call it a federal republic, it means it has to be federal in everything. It means that the composing units of a federation will be autonomous, independent, and different within themselves. Autonomous and independent from the central body, and different within themselves, economically, socially, and a lot of things. Those are the things that are missing. So this thing, how do you ensure them? You need a foundation that will agree to that. And that foundation, that weak foundation, is what allows people to behave in self-serving, strange, and quite frankly, destructive way, because they can get away with it. So, for example, one of the things we're talking about is the ease with which local government chairmen can be dismissed, regardless of what happens. If we truly imbibe the democratic values that these people are elected, these people are representing the voices of the people, the votes of the people that put them there. Before you suspend them, it has to be a very big disaster. It has to be something major. You can't just suspend them for administrative things. And above all, you never suspend them if it appears as if it's illegal, or it appears as if it's a vendetta, or if it appears as if you're doing it against people who are not with you. Those are the kind of mindset that the foundation will allow for us to get right. But the foundation has to be clear that local government chairman has to be autonomous, independent, and it should not be pushed around.
But what other local, foundation could there be that would be stronger than the Constitution?
No, nothing. Perhaps the culture. The only thing that will be stronger than the Constitution is the culture, but the Constitution itself is not strong enough. That's part of the problem we have.
When you say the Constitution is not strong enough, please help me understand.
Well, I've had causes.
When we had the SDP and the NRC, we kind of knew what the SDP stood for. I knew what the NRC stood for. Even when the PDP started, we kind of knew, okay, this is what the PDP stands for. When the APC started as well, we could tell, okay, this is a group of people who are disgruntled about this, came together to form this so that they can take power. So everyone had what it is that they stood for. But now it does seem like nothing stands for anything. Anyone can just jump from one place to the other if they're trying to get their interest. And we heard Senator Magnus Abe say it on Friday. He said, we're politicians, we're all about personal interest. Has it gotten to where the national interest is not even on the table? Everyone is focused on personal interest. And you're a professor. How can this be fixed?
Well, let's see how we get there first, how we got to where we are. Really, we got to where we are because, contrary to what you say, you've been too generous with your memory on history. Contrary to what you say, there was no major difference, neither from the PDP in the initial stage or the AD or the other party. I want people to remember that Bola Ige wrote the manifesto of most of these parties, moving from one place to the other. The foundation of APC was really a quest to grab power. Yes, there were lots of manifestos and programs, but what really made it a party that can win power is because a huge chunk of other parties got together, and some of those parties were in the PDP. So in a way, what united them was the quest to remove Jonathan, not really to build a new country as we've seen now. And when I say as we've seen now, let's do a test, and I'll have to think about it. Of all the three major candidates that contested for presidency in 2023, Peter Obi, Atiku Abubakar, and of course, Bola Tinubu, their stances on a major issue like fuel subsidy is not very different, it's not very clear. They are in the origin of our problem. So maybe the people trying to ruin us are really similar. And if you look at all their history, Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi were all in the PDP before. The same Atiku himself was one time in the APC. So you can understand that maybe they're very similar. And that is a problem itself, because those who have been ruling Nigeria, if you look at it, all tend to want to call themselves progressives. There is a general understanding in the Nigerian political elite that being a progressive is what is good, being a Democrat is what is good. Maybe we need to go back. Maybe we need to say, for starters, let us agree and hear your good self and people like Ayo and all the brotherhood of the media. We might have to rely on you to help us. So that when people come out, let's ask them precisely, what is the difference between you and the person you're contesting again? And maybe we can help them further by saying, dear sir, dear madam, in the next election, what are you going to do about this specific issue different from the other one? Where there might be no ideology, we might force them to at least give us some different ideas and different programs. Because, for example, on the issue of tax, we're hearing things like, it is anti-North, it is this, that. It just shows you, and you ask me the notion why we got here. We have put identity politics over politics of ideas and program. So we talk about zoning and rotation, we talk about ethnic, we talk about religious, we talk about balancing the ticket, and we talk very little about competence. Even if we cannot get ideology, which I am a big fan of ideology, but if we cannot get that, let us at least get ideas to know that what does this person stand for. Part of the problem we have also is that when we nominate people for positions, not even elections, you get a minister that you don't know what he or she stands for in the past. You can't Google them to see their stance of thing. If somebody wants to be a minister for a Greek, for heaven's sake, should we not have an idea of what he or she has been saying about agriculture in the past? And I don't mean that to be an expert of agriculture. At least show some passion for it so that we know. You see, in an organized society, which I pray will become, actually, I say organized, I mean normal. In a normal society, if somebody becomes a minister for finance, those of us who follow finance and economy, we should be able to predict where he or she stands, because he's not going to discover finance overnight. Part of the problem we have is that there are people who have become ministers in this country, commissioners in this country, and it is the day before, the day after they get their nomination, that they start to go to Wikipedia to know what that ministerial topic is about. If you want a politics where people will not jump ship easily, we need to find a way, culture and constitution, that forces us to make sure that the people who manage our lives have been committed to that aspect of our lives before the day they get power.
I mean, I wanted to be able to talk to you a little bit about local government autonomy in itself.
Yes.
And vis-a-vis the Edo conundrum. I can't say that many of us were not shocked that this happened when Monday Okpebholo became governor of the state, because we see that dynamic. If the governor is from one party and everyone from the local level, the local government chairman come from a different party, it's bound to be some kind of friction. You either work with them or you get rid of them. And in this case, it does feel like we're getting rid of these people. And we've seen at least 2 of them, defect to the APC over the weekend. What do you make of this situation in Edo State and what it does to local government autonomy as well as the rule of the judiciary?
Well, because of my relationship with Edo State, my instinct is to defend Edo State and say to you, don't pick on Edo State like that, as if it's the evil of Nigeria. Edo State is a reflection of Nigeria overall. The idea of a winner takes it all in local government election and management is not alien. It's not something peculiar to just Edo State. It's happening now, and that's a bit of a shame that it's the one we're referring to. But overall, what leads to all these things is contrary to Ayo's elegant view about evolution, is the trajectory we're living. Is this barbaric idea of winner grabs everything off, where politics is about power and domination rather than service and banter of ideas. That's part of the problem we have. If we want to solve it, we need to go and solve that. We need to look into, now that this administration, and I think it's a good thing it has done, it is moving towards recognizing, consolidating the autonomy of local government. We all need to get interested in local government. We all need to be interested in the process of getting elected, in the status and gravitas of those who are the local government. You see, when this local government autonomy process came up, for example, I had a radical proposal for some of my friends. I said, can we all of a sudden decide of all the 774 local governments in Nigeria to get 200 professors to go and contest local government chairman, to go there. Let us, for example, get former MDs of PLC companies to go back to their local government, so that all of a sudden, just to make a statement, all of a sudden, we make the mass of the local government the stronger one, and let people see what can be done. I did it in a few, WhatsApp group, and you don't want to hear the answers. They're not things you can see on breakfast TV, but let's move ahead. So we need to reshape things in reality.
I mean, it does seem like such a confusing situation. But when it comes to the question of leadership, which I think is where I'm going to close my questioning on you today, the question of leadership in Nigeria and where we are as a people. Ayo had talked earlier about an evolution. Are we evolving, or are we just changing course, or are we devolving even, as a people when it comes to leadership in this country? We've seen from the Tinubu administration attempts. That's what they are, attempts at, following things to the letter. All right, this is how local governments are supposed to be run. They're supposed to be financially autonomous. Oh, this is how this is supposed to be done. This is what this is supposed to be on paper, really. With everything that's going on in the country, and we see all these attempts, are these things that we can actually see manifest in the subnationals when it comes to the state governments and how they run themselves, especially with the issues up now, local government autonomy, state policing, crime and criminality, the tax issue? Are these things that we can actually see work at those levels, or are we hoping against hope?
No, I do not think we're hoping against hope. Anything that the social construct is feasible. If you put your mind to it, you just need two things: vision and vigor. If somebody can conceive something, then others can implement it. You just have to make sure that it's implemented. We have to embrace it and follow it through. And in the process of visualizing, envisioning, and implementing, we also have to be conscious that there are some people who, out of interest or mischief, will not want progress to happen to us. And we have to factor how to deal with those people, factors, and elements. I think that's part of what is missing in our reasoning. We have to know that there are some people who are enemies of progress, either because it favors them, or either because they have some malicious bone in them. For whatever reason, we have to include them in our process. So, to your question, yes, it is not hope against hope. It is something doable. We just have to make sure it happens.
Leadership recruitment process has been an issue, is still an issue.
Yes.
Now, when you talk about getting retired professors and retired execs.
Exit one.
Oh, really?
Yes. That's
my mind just went straight to retired soldiers, retired soldiers, retired military men who will just be in those local governments and administering. It will definitely raise the stakes.
No, it will. You see, that's part of the error we did. That's part of the... Now, I'm going to make some enemies this morning. So let's go ahead. Part of the mistake we made in 1999 was not to draw a line to say anybody who has been in any way beneficiary or complice of the military regime that the Democrats fought against should not be part of this government. I think that at least suspend them for maybe for 20 years. To say in the next 20 years, anybody that can be traced in any way to be a collaborator, an accomplice, or beneficiary of the past military regime should not be part of it. You see, by not doing so, we lacked ethos. We didn't create the ethos and the passion for a new foundation. It was just a process that we went through. So this time around, don't bring retired military people, although they've been there for 20 years under civilian administration, so it will be unfair on them. I just feel that if you've been in the barracks for so long and wearing a uniform, maybe you should stay away from democracy for a while.
Or maybe after you retire, wait till 20 years before you contest. I don't know.
Or maybe you're going to do a course. You show your military democratic
exactly where my next question
maybe
is
you need
going.
to show
all political leaders, in terms of the leadership recruitment, shouldn't they go through some kind of process, some kind of because I always look at NIPS. I don't know what the course is like there, but I just know
those courses are for people who already know. they are made for people already in power to give them more power.
Because if you look at the people
I totally agree with you. I think INEC perhaps should partner with some training institutions.
Is this something INEC should do, or the political parties? They are the ones who field candidates.
No, if you leave it to political parties, they won't do it themselves. I think I think INEC should, as part of the process for being eligible, again, that's a constitutional thing. I think we need to say, for example, anybody that wants to run off it should have some kind of proof that they understand the Constitution and the concept of democracy. And perhaps the way to do it is for them to do, a 3-4 weeks program and do a test and pass it.
Absolutely. Professor Anthony Killer, political scientist, public affairs analyst, and Jean Monnet, professor of strategy and development. Thank you so much for your time again this morning. Okay, from politics now to business.